federal criminal investigation targeting Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby and her husband, City Council President Nick Mosby. Hello, everybody. I'm Denise Koch.
And I'm Max McGee. A source confirms multiple subpoenas have been served in this investigation. Community activists calling Baltimore plagued.
WJZ is live right now. Amy Kawada with the statement from their lawyer and what community leaders are now saying about this. Amy.
Max, Denise, according to sources, federal prosecutors have subpoenaed Marilyn Mosby's campaign, along with Nick and Marilyn's business records. And while the couple's attorney is calling this investigation a political witch hunt, some city leaders say it's time for change. The federal grand jury and federal prosecutors have formally opened a criminal investigation into Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby and Baltimore City Council President Nick Mosby.
What we know is that those subpoenas have been sent to several churches in the Baltimore, Maryland area.
Authorities are requesting financial information, which may include tax returns, bank statements, and loan documents. Maryland Attorney Jeremy Eldridge weighing in on this investigation.
It's obvious that the U.S. Attorney's Office smells blood in the water, and they may be putting a case together.
The couple's lawyer, A. Scott Bolden, issued a statement to WJZ calling the investigation a political witch hunt, saying, quote, "My clients are progressive change agents, making them unfair targets of unnecessary scrutiny by federal investigators. Nevertheless, I can assure you and the people of Baltimore they have done nothing illegal, inappropriate, or unlawful."
I do believe in due process. I don't believe any judgments of them should be made immediately. However, just as mentioned before, this is a recurring pattern where we have investigation after investigation of our elected officials.
On Friday, in response to the federal criminal probe, former Baltimore City Council President Challenger and community activist Giovanni Patterson held a press conference calling on both Nick and Marilyn Mosby to immediately resign.
I'm not just calling on the mayor. I'm calling on the community. I'm calling on the city of Baltimore. It's time to inspect what's going on here.
Enough is enough. We have to do something differently.
In the meantime, Bolden said he advised the Mosbys not to make any further comments on this matter and that they will cooperate with investigators to fight for the truth to come out. And sources say authorities have also issued subpoenas to city churches, including Union Baptist Church. WJZ did reach out to the church for comment, but have not heard back yet. Live at City Hall tonight, I'm Amy Kawada for WJZ.
All right, we have more breaking news right now. Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby has been indicted.
WJZ investigator Mike Halgren is live with more details. Mike.
Lynn, Denise, we are still reviewing that indictment. I was just looking through it, 19 pages. It is signed by the U.S. Attorney in Maryland. It appears that there are charges of perjury and making a false statement on a loan application for taking a COVID-19 hardship withdrawal from a 401k account. Again, we are still reviewing the document, but it appears there are multiple charges against Marilyn Mosby. This indictment was brought with the assistance of a grand jury. Marilyn Mosby has long denied any wrongdoing. From the start of this, we know that she has been under investigation by the federal government for some time now. We were unsure whether there would be any charges. Again, Marilyn Mosby has denied any wrongdoing in previous statements, but it appears that she has been indicted on several charges, including perjury and making false statements when trying to obtain a loan. We're going to continue to follow this. Back to you on TV Hill.
Well, Mike, I know you said you're just beginning to go through the indictments, but it appears as though these are charges relating to her private life, not her official life as City State's Attorney.
That is correct. There is no charge that she did anything wrong in her position as Baltimore City State's Attorney. These appear to be financial charges. We know that the U.S. Attorney's Office has been digging into her financial records for some time.
All right. I know that this is breaking news, that you just got this, the indictments, and that you're going to be going through them, and you will come back to us as soon as you're able to give us some more information. For that, we are grateful. And
that's right.
We will continue, obviously, to report on this very important breaking news throughout the afternoon's newscast. See you very soon. Thank you, Mike.
I hope that as we move forward with this case, everyone will respect due process and refrain from doing anything that will jeopardize our ability to seek justice.
Marilyn Mosby is still relatively new state's attorney in Baltimore. She is 35 years old and has been on the job for less than 4 months. The most compelling things about Marilyn Mosby are that she comes from a long line of Boston police officers. Both her mother and her grandfather were career Boston police. Marilyn Mosby is married to Baltimore council member Nick Mosby. Their relationship has become a point of controversy because the Fraternal Order of Police say it could create or has created a conflict of interest because he represents the area where Freddie Gray lived and was arrested. There are a number of other conflicts of interest that have been alleged. She has a relationship with Freddie Gray's family attorney, Billy Murphy, who gave her a $5,000, a substantial donation, when she was running for office.
The legal expert I spoke to said these are serious charges. Mosby could face jail time if convicted, but he stresses at this point these are just allegations. A 4-count federal indictment against Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, handed down by a grand jury Thursday, charging her with perjury and making false statements on a mortgage application.
This is a case that involves a public official committing fraud, but it is not a case of a public official, for example, stealing state resources.
The charges relate to the purchase of 2 vacation homes in Florida in 2020. Charging documents state Mosby claimed to have experienced financial hardship due to the COVID pandemic in order to withdraw from the city's deferred compensation plan, even though documents show she was receiving her full salary. The indictment states she used that money toward the purchase of the homes. And the indictment alleges she did not disclose her tax liabilities on the mortgage applications, even though the IRS placed a lien against her property for unpaid taxes.
My first thought was that this is a paper trail crime. This is a crime that involves documents, and so this is a harder one to defend against in many ways.
Mosby's attorney sent us a statement maintaining her innocence, stating, "We will fight these charges vigorously, and I remain confident that once all the evidence is presented, that she will prevail against these bogus charges that are rooted in personal, political, and racial animus 5 months before her election." David Jarrus says it's largely a political decision whether she stays in office, since these are just allegations at this point. But he wonders if there's another shoe about to drop.
These are charges that grew out, at least you read in the media, out of an investigation that involved other things. There were subpoenas to find out about donations to charities and things like that. So I think there is some part of Baltimore that is wondering if other indictments are on the way.
The state's attorney's office sent us a statement saying they will not be sidetracked. State's Attorney Mosby and the office remain completely focused and wholly committed to serving the citizens of our city. Mosby's first court date has not yet been set. Reporting live downtown, Kim Dacey, WBAL TV 11 News.
Kim, thank you. This indictment comes after nearly a year of federal investigations into Marilyn Mosby.
11 News anchor Ashley Hinton is joining us live in the studio, reporting on what has materialized over the past year and how we got here. Ashley.
Yeah, Andre and Deb, the feds kept quiet about this case for months, all the while piecing together evidence they say proves Mosby lied on financial transactions to buy homes in Florida. It was back in March of 2021 when federal prosecutors issued subpoenas for a plethora of financial records from Marilyn Mosby and her husband, City Council President Nick Mosby. Under investigation, the Mosbys' campaign finance and business records. Federal officials subpoenaed the Maryland State Board of Elections, seeking those records dating back to 2014. Marilyn Mosby's attorney sought to have the federal prosecutors investigating the couple be removed from the case and investigated for potential misconduct themselves. That never happened. But in April of this year, Mosby told WBAL News Radio she has nothing to hide and that she has done nothing illegal, nefarious, or wrong. This also comes after what happened in March of 2020 when the Internal Revenue Service filed a lien against the Mosby's property for unpaid taxes from 2014 to 2016. It was listed at $45,000. According to information filed in circuit court, the Mosbys paid off that tax lien several months ago. Now, Mosby's attorney said he was aware federal prosecutors were pursuing perjury charges against his client, but said he was never given any details, only that it related to her signature on a document. WBAL TV 11 News reporting Ashley Hinson.
Ashley, thank you. Marilyn Mosby does not have to step down from her office while the case plays out, but the process to remove her can get complicated.
She can be removed from her position if the Attorney General files a petition and 2/3 of the Senate vote to remove her. Otherwise, this is a political question about whether she wants to continue in the position. Whether or not she will choose to step down will be a question about whether or not probably she thinks she can continue to do the job.
If she were to be removed, district and circuit court judges would have to vote on her replacement.
Deb, as you know, Governor Larry Hogan has been a very vocal critic of Marilyn Mosby, but tonight his office tells 11 News he has no comment about her accused crimes for now. Baltimore Police Commissioner Michael Harrison also has no comment. Mayor Brandon Scott did release a statement. Part of it states he'll, quote, champion transparency and accountability and not allow these charges to distract his administration from addressing Baltimore's most pressing needs.
These federal charges come just weeks before the filing deadline for the June primary for the state's attorney's office. No one has officially filed for candidacy just yet. Mosby has been fundraising but has not formally filed for re-election. Unclear tonight what impact today's indictment will have on her decision. You can get updates on the indictment and the case against Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby by using the WBAL TV mobile app. Turn on push alerts for late-breaking developments. This federal indictment alleges that Mosby falsely claimed financial hardship due to the pandemic. The indictment claims between May 26 and December 29th of 2020, Mosby submitted a request to get $40,000 and $50,000 from her city retirement account. According to court documents, Mosby falsely certified she met the requirements under the CARES Act because she experienced adverse financial effects due to the pandemic, but the indictment alleges Mosby did not experience such hardships. In fact, it says she got her full salary from January 1st through December 29th. The indictment also claims Mrs. Mosby made false statements in mortgage applications to purchase 2 homes in Florida. She did not. According to documents, disclosed she had unpaid federal taxes on either application. If convicted, Mosby faces a maximum of 5 years in federal prison for each of the 2 perjury counts. She could face up to 30 years in federal prison for the 2 counts of false mortgage applications. She will appear in U.S. District Court in Baltimore. That hearing has not yet been scheduled. Marilyn Mosby was first elected in January of 2015 and sworn in as the youngest chief prosecutor of a major American city. Mosby, who is originally from Boston, first gained major national attention just months into office when Freddie Gray died in police custody, and she called for the indictment of the police officers involved. None ultimately was convicted. During the pandemic, she called for an elimination of prosecuting certain low-level offenses, and that action soon made her a lightning rod and led to open sparring with Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. Marilyn Mosby is a mother of 2. She is married to City Council President Nick Mosby, who is not mentioned in the federal indictment. We have reached out to Marilyn Mosby's office and have not heard back yet, and we will have much more on this breaking news later in the newscast.
We start tonight with the developing news out of Baltimore. City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby now facing federal charges.
Mosby is facing charges of perjury and filing a false mortgage application. Her attorney says he plans to fight what he claims are false allegations.
Let's go live to WMAR2 News' Ray Strickland, who is in downtown Baltimore tonight. Ray, you spoke to her attorney, who says they have evidence that will prove that she's not guilty in this case.
Yeah, Jamie, her attorney says they have witnesses and documents that could prove her innocence. He didn't go into what that evidence is, but he says the U.S. Attorney's Office could have seen all of this evidence already, but he says the prosecutors refused to meet with them.
Well, it's very disappointing.
Reacting to a federal indictment against his client, State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, A. Scott Bowden says the charges against her are bogus.
They forced us to fight now, and we look forward to fighting for justice and for the truth to come out.
Mosby is facing multiple counts of perjury and making false statements on a loan application.
They're charging her with taking her own money and lying about it. She didn't have to provide a false statement or perjure herself to take her own money from her 401k. These were not public funds. They were her funds.
According to the indictment, Mosby requested a one-time withdrawal of $40,000 in May 2020 and another $50,000 in December 2020 from her pension, claiming financial hardship due to the pandemic. The indictment says Mosby received her entire salary of about $250,000, but her attorney says the request was related to her travel business.
She consulted with a professional about whether she could take those monies in her connection to her business and whether she could use that money to invest it. And she was told yes.
The feds are accusing Mosby of also lying on mortgage loan applications for 2 properties in Florida. The indictment says she did not disclose she had a tax lien, and the feds also accuse her of getting a lower interest rate by claiming one of the properties was her second home.
She had no knowledge of the tax liens, that her husband had knowledge of it. She never received a copy of the tax liens from the tax office.
Bowden says they have witnesses and documents to prove Mosby's innocence, as he also criticized the U.S. Attorney's Office for what he calls a bad faith prosecution.
We also believe that if we raise it and get a full hearing, our hope is to convince a judge or ultimately a jury that these charges are not only false, but should not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
And a spokesperson from the state's attorney's office did send a statement saying that Ms. Mosby and her office remains committed to serving the citizens of Baltimore City, going on to say, quote, "We will not be distracted or sidetracked from our mission to make Baltimore a safer community," end quote. Now, it is important to stress that Ms. Mosby is innocent until proven guilty, but if she is convicted, she faces decades in prison. Reporting live tonight in Baltimore, Ray Strickland, WMAR 2 News.
All right, thanks a lot, Ray. Let's backtrack here. Marilyn Mosby was elected as the city's top prosecutor in 2014. She gained national attention when she charged the officers involved in the police custody death of Freddie Gray. All 6 officers pleaded not guilty in the end. All the charges against them were eventually dropped. She was reelected in 2018 and is up for re-election this year. In March of last year, a criminal investigation was opened on Mosby and her husband, City Council President Nick Mosby. They subpoenaed her campaign and the couple's business records, requesting financial records dating back to 2014 relating to Mosby's businesses and campaigns. Tax returns, loan documents, and bank statements were specifically requested. In October of 2020, the IRS placed a $45,000 lien against the couple, saying that they failed to pay federal taxes from 2014 through 2016. That was paid off last summer.
All right, what's the mayor saying? The mayor's office is also responding to the indictment today and released a statement saying, in part, let's read it together. Mayor Scott will not allow these charges to distract his administration from addressing Baltimore's most pressing needs and paving a new way for our city. The mayor remains committed to the mission of building safer neighborhoods, creating jobs, and leading Baltimore's ongoing COVID recovery efforts.
Now, if you'd like to read the full indictment, we have it for you. You can head to our website at WMAR2news.com.
Well, we continue our team coverage with Kelsey Kushner, who spoke with people across the city following this shocking announcement. I imagine you heard strong words on both sides, Kelsey.
Yeah, Denise. Well, some people that we spoke with said that they were very surprised to hear about these charges, but other people said they weren't surprised at all.
I'm very shocked. Very, very, very shocked.
The news spread quickly across Baltimore City.
Mosby, I believe, is just as corrupt as all the rest of them.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, indicted by a federal grand jury, came as a shock to some.
I thought she was one of the good ones.
Mosby was sworn into office in January of 2015. She quickly gained national attention just months later after charging 6 police officers after the death of Freddie Gray, but none of the officers were convicted. During the pandemic, she called for elimination of prosecuting certain low-level offenses, sparking criticism from Governor Larry Hogan.
It's really sad to know that the people who are in power and they are meant to enforce the law, doing these kind of things.
Documents say during the pandemic, Mosby claimed financial hardships, yet her salary jumped significantly.
Hearing that somebody kind of takes advantage of certain things during the pandemic while a lot of people were suffering, it's really not something that you like to hear, especially in people that are in a higher position.
While some say they're shocked by the news, others say it's deja vu with city leaders.
Definitely a pattern, yep. And when will the cycle be broken? That's the question we should all be asking.
Now, in a statement to WJZ, Mayor Brandon Scott said in part that he will continue to champion accountability and transparency to maintain that trust in City Hall. Reporting live tonight, Kelsey Kushner for WJZ.
All right, thank you, Kelsey. Well, stay with WJZ for live updates on the indictment of City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. As we learn more, we will be sure to bring it to you.
MAR 2 News at 5 begins now with breaking news.
And that breaking news is coming in from out of Baltimore, where the prosecutor needs a defense attorney. City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is now facing federal charges.
In a release today from the Department of Justice, Mosby is facing charges of perjury and filing a false mortgage application. She is accused of making false statements on loan applications. She's charged with asking for $90,000, citing that she experienced financial setback due to the pandemic.
The indictment says she did not experience any financial hardship. It also says she lied on loan documents to lower her interest rate when purchasing a vacation home in Florida. She also didn't disclose that she had a federal lien when buying that home. Mosby faces a maximum of 70 years in prison for the 4 charges. She was elected to her position back in 2014. She and her husband, Nick Mosby, have been under investigation since at least February of last year, when the FBI subpoenaed their records. They wanted to look into her campaign as well as the couple's business records.
Well, Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby indicted on federal charges.
WJZ first to tell you about it last hour.
And our investigator Mike Helgren is live right now. He's breaking down those charging documents for us from downtown. Mike?
Denise, Lynn, there are 4 counts in this indictment, including perjury and falsifying loan documents. We know this investigation has been going on for almost a year. Ms. Mosby's husband, City Council President Nick Mosby, is not a defendant in these indictments. We're breaking down what we know about the case, including comments that Mosby made last March. Let's take a listen. Longtime Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby has been indicted on multiple counts of perjury and making false statements on loan applications for vacation homes. The federal government alleges she also took a withdrawal from her 401k account that was improper, saying she needed the money through a COVID-19 hardship withdrawal. Mosby makes more than $200,000 a year on the job.
I couldn't tell you what would place a target. I can just tell you that in this position, I'm going to always do what I believe is in the best interest of my city and my community and public safety. Whether that makes me a target is on someone else.
The federal investigation has been going on for months as the U.S. Attorney's Office has been combing through the top prosecutor's personal financial records. Representatives of the U.S. Attorney's Office previously declined to comment.
We never discuss the existence or non-existence of any investigation.
Mosby has long denied any wrongdoing in the case.
So I'm not going to discuss that matter. I would refer you to my attorney, Scott Bolden, if you want to discuss it.
And again, those comments from Marilyn Mosby are from March of last year when we first started following this. Again, this investigation has been going on for a long time, and it often takes a long time for federal authorities to get access to all of those documents, comb through them, and see if there is indeed a case to be made. Mosby's lawyer has previously said that she did nothing wrong and plans to fight this. Reporting live at City Hall, Mike Helgren, WJZ.
Mike, thank you. So what happens next with Marilyn Mosby?
Well, for some answers and for some thoughts, let's go to WJZ legal expert Adam Ruther. He joins us now. Adam, let's start with your reaction to this indictment.
So obviously everyone knew that there was an investigation going on, and we knew that to some extent it would involve Ms. Mosby's tax filings and her husband's tax filings. What we didn't know was the angle that it appears that that the investigation took, which is a real focus on the purchase of these two properties in Florida and where the down payments for those properties came from and how that relates to special tax exemptions that have been put in place to help people who were suffering as a result of COVID-19 loss in their economic position. And what we see here is a much more straightforward case than a lot of us were expecting. Simply put, it seems that the allegation is that Ms. Mosby said things that were verifiably false on her applications for these mortgages and said things that were verifiably false in order to withdraw money tax-free from her deferred compensation.
Adam, this was a year-long federal probe. How serious are these charges laid out in the indictment?
So we see sort of two sets of parallel charges. There are 2 counts of perjury, one for each of the withdrawals that she took from deferred compensation. Each of those counts carries a maximum penalty of 5 years. And with regard to the false statements in relation to a loan application, which otherwise could be referred to as mortgage fraud, those each carry maximum penalties of 30 years. So these are very serious charges. There's no doubt about that. How they ultimately will shake out, obviously, will be determined by the courts.
The charge of perjury, looking at the charging documents, it appears that Marilyn Mosby signed something saying, "I consent to a distribution elected above and affirm under penalties for perjury the statements and acknowledgments," and signed that. It appears from these documents knowing that she was perjuring herself when she signed it.
Well, see, that's exactly the point in most of these cases. Obviously, the language under the penalties of perjury is something that most of us would gloss over as long as we were signing something that we knew or thought to be true. But every once in a while, those words become the most important words that we'll ever read. And the real issue in this case is probably going to be whether she was paying sufficient attention or whether she had the actual knowledge at the time that what she was saying was false. And obviously, with regard to the application to remove money from her deferred compensation, I think it's going to be a hard sell to argue that she didn't know that she didn't have any diminution in her actual income as a result of COVID-19, which will be the central point in the case.
So we now have the indictment. What happens next? Marilyn Mosby will have to go to court.
She will. The thing that happens next is an arraignment, where she will obviously appear, and she already has a lawyer, so it's mostly a pro forma event. The likelihood that she's going to be detained while she's pending trial is non-existent. She'll be allowed to remain free while she's waiting for her trial date. And then the process of discovery commences and discussions between her attorney and the U.S. Attorney's Office about whether this is going to be a trial or whether there's going to be a resolution short of a trial in the form of a plea bargain.
This is the city's main prosecutor, so she's got to continue to do her job as the prosecutor while she is under the shadow of these indictments. That's a complicated thing, isn't it?
It certainly is, and that complication is exactly the reason that many of us, the public and legal community, would be looking at this situation and wondering whether she'll choose to continue to do her job. Obviously, she, like every other accused defendant, is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So there is no obligation for her to step down as state's attorney, but every one of us will be asking the exact same question you're asking. How is she going to act as the city's chief prosecutor with this hanging over her head? And that's a decision that she's going to have to make very carefully.
All right, very insightful. We thank you very much for your thoughts, Adam Ruther, our legal expert, and we appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Stay with WJZ. We'll have live updates on the indictment of City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. Throughout the evening, we will continue to bring you more reaction as we get it. WJZ, first to report on air today that Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is now facing federal charges of perjury and making a false statement on a loan application. That federal indictment came down just hours ago. Hello, everybody. I'm Denise Koch.
And I'm Lynn Bowie. We have live team coverage. Kelsey Kushner has reaction from the community, but we start with Mike Halgren, who's been going through this indictment. Mike, you've been digging through the charging documents, and what have you found?
Lynn, Denise, this case revolves around Mosby's personal finances, not allegations of any wrongdoing on the job. There are allegations that she lied on loan applications for 2 vacation homes in Florida. We know the federal government has been painstakingly looking into her finances for about a year now. Among the allegations is that she lied about her past tax obligations and how one of the vacation homes would be used in order to obtain a lower interest rate. Longtime Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby has been indicted on multiple counts of perjury and making false statements on loan applications for vacation homes. The federal government alleges she also took a withdrawal from her 401k account that was improper, saying she needed the money through a COVID-19 hardship withdrawal. Mosby makes more than $200,000 a year on the job.
I couldn't tell you what would place a target. I can just tell you that in this position, I'm going to always do what I believe is in the best interest of my city and my community and public safety. Whether that makes me a target is on someone else.
The federal investigation has been going on for months as the U.S. Attorney's Office has been combing through the top prosecutor's personal financial records. Representatives of the U.S. Attorney's Office previously declined to comment.
We never discuss the existence or non-existence of any investigation.
Mosby has long denied any wrongdoing in the case.
So I'm not going to discuss that matter. I would refer you to my attorney.
Here is an image from the indictment of Mosby saying that she has experienced adverse financial consequences stemming from the coronavirus, including being quarantined and having reduced work hours. There were 2 withdrawals from her 401k account that the government alleges were improper, one for $40,000 and another for $50,000, made between May and December of 2020. The counts carry a total of 70 years in prison if Mosby is found guilty. Previously, her attorney alleged she was being targeted politically.
So she's been sued by the police before. She certainly stood up and prosecuted cops for Freddie Gray.
And we have reached out to her attorney today for new comment. We have not heard back. City Council President Nick Mosby, her husband, is not listed as a defendant in this indictment, and no hearing date has been set. This case has been assigned to a fairly new federal judge, Lydia K. Grigsby, who is a Baltimore native. Reporting live at City Hall, Mike Helgren, WJZ.
Thank you, Mike. After months of a federal investigation, charges for a top city official. Tonight, Baltimore's lead prosecutor is facing some legal woes of her own in a shocking new indictment. Welcome to WJZ News at 11, and to those of you who may be streaming tonight, I'm Denise Koch, and we begin with those felony charges State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is facing, a story WJZ was first to bring you today. The 19-page indictment accuses Mosby of perjury and making false statements on mortgage applications. Now, we have live team coverage tonight. Kelsey Kushner has new perspective from the community, but we begin with WJZ investigator Mike Helgren at Baltimore's federal courthouse with what's next. Mike?
Denise, there'll be an initial hearing before a judge that has not yet been scheduled. It is highly unlikely that Ms. Mosby will be detained pending any sort of trial. Her attorney said tonight that she is energized and ready to prove the feds wrong.
She's indicted now, and now we fight.
Marilyn Mosby's attorney, A. Scott Bolden, vowed a vigorous defense against the 4 felony charges a grand jury brought against her. They involve Mosby's personal finances, allegations she lied on mortgage applications for 2 vacation properties in Florida, and falsely claimed a COVID-19 hardship withdrawal from her retirement account. Bolden spoke to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Marilyn Mosby had businesses, if you will, and so those businesses were in the travel space, and they were affected by it, and her accountant urged her to take that money.
In a statement to WJZ, Bolton says, "I remain confident that once all the evidence is presented, she will prevail against these bogus charges that are rooted in personal, political, and racial animus 5 months from her election." As to another allegation that Mosby lied about a prior tax lien to obtain a lower interest rate on one of her homes, Bolden says her husband, City Council President Nick Mosby, never informed her of the tax issue.
Under the penalties of perjury is something that most of us would gloss over as long as we were signing something that we knew or thought to be true. But every once in a while, those words become the most important words that we'll ever read.
Lawyer Adam Ruther, who's not affiliated with the case, says Mosby can stay in office as the city's top prosecutor if she chooses.
How is she going to act as the city's chief prosecutor with this hanging over her head? And that's a decision that she's going to have to make very carefully.
Federal prosecutors first subpoenaed Mosby's financial records almost a year ago, and she's maintained her innocence.
In this position, I'm going to always do what I believe is in the best interest of my city and my community and public safety.
If convicted, Marilyn Mosby faces a combined 70 years in prison. And let's go straight to a statement Mosby's office issued tonight, saying they remain completely focused and wholly committed to serving the citizens of our city. Our leadership and our prosecutors are some of the best in the world, and we will not be distracted or sidetracked from our mission to make Baltimore a safer community. Mosby's husband, the city council president, has not been named as a defendant in this case.